Welcome back to Artem at Home. This is, of course, my second channel. Please subscribe. Nearly at 100 subs. Also nearly at 10,000 on the main channel. Really appreciate it. UFC 315, UFC 318 just wrapped up, of course, with the main event being Max Holloway taking on Dustin Poirier in his retirement fight. I will admit, not my best card. I went 8-6 on picks. As you guys know as well, I'm not actually sports betting at the moment. And kind of thankful for that personally. I just do genuinely believe I would have lost money if I did. I would have been cooking on the prelims, and then I think I would have gotten overconfident and lost a lot on the main card. But just full transparency there, I didn't bet any money on this card, so I didn't lose any money on the card. But my picks, 8-6, not too good. But also, just to cope a little bit, suffer a little bit of copium, I think there probably were people that went worse than me. But to talk about this main event, I think this was the fight of the night. Now, will people disagree with me on that? Potentially, I think that maybe you could argue Oliveira versus Phillips was the fight of the night. Maybe Holland versus the old man, D-Rod, was the fight of the night. I think that was the round of the night, but I think for 25 minutes, like kind of unlike Holloway versus Gaethje, and this is where my real hot take comes in. Unlike Holloway versus Gaethje, this fight kept me engaged for all 25 minutes. I loved this fight. I thought that Holloway had a lot of moments. It mostly was a Holloway fight, really. You know, Poirier only one round on my scorecard. I thought that Holloway won the fight 49-46, but Holloway was smoking him in the first two rounds, and then Poirier kind of brought it back a little bit, I believe, in the third round, or maybe it was the fourth, and then Holloway found more success as well later on in the fight. And the fight was good. I think the fifth round was good as well. I was very impressed by both guys' cardio. Both guys really pushed it in the fifth round. I know that the volume on the numbers did decrease, but they both were still swinging with a lot of intent. And both guys overall landed a lot of significant strikes. I believe that the total number is over 300 significant strikes on the fight. So that is very, very impressive. That's pretty cool. I think that, of course, Holloway had a good performance here. Now, do I think that Max Holloway should go out there and should he fight Ilia Topuria? In my honest opinion, I am going to say no. I would rather see Topuria fight Sarukian personally, or maybe even just someone else. I would love Holloway versus Dan Hooker. I think that would be fight of the year kind of material. I think it would be awesome. You know, title eliminator for Holloway. If Dan Hooker won, probably he needs another one, of course. But I still think that that would be a good one. I just don't really want to see Holloway in there with Topuria again, because I just think that he would knock him out. Again, I genuinely do think that. Now, Poirier was landing pretty good shots on Holloway, and his chin did hold up, of course. I believe it was the end of the second round, where Holloway was looking really good. And then he stood up, and Poirier rocked him bad, pulled the guillotine at the end of the round. Pretty fun. I am happy that he did his silly gilly. Now, I will be honest, fully transparent again. Poirier, in his retirement, for me personally as a fan, and I actually don't really have a strong reason for this, I never really become a strong fan of Dustin Poirier. Now, maybe it does come down to the fact that I will admit, you know, I am a fan of Conor McGregor in fighting. Now, of course, has aged poorly, and now he's kind of just an idiot. But maybe it was because of the McGregor sort of situation, because I liked McGregor, and also I'm a big Dan Hooker fan. Like, Dan Hooker probably is my favorite fighter of all time. He probably is the single guy that really got me into the sport, aside from maybe Cody Garbrandt. So maybe because Poirier was kind of like the villain of my UFC fandom, maybe that's why Dustin Poirier, you know, wasn't really like my top guy, because when I was first getting into UFC, like, this is where he was getting all of his fight of the nights and performance of the nights. So very interesting that for some reason I just didn't really fall in love with Poirier as a fighter. So that's kind of on me personally. I do think that it's a suitable retirement fight, though. I think that Poirier versus Hooker 2 could have been another option, but I think that Holloway, it's correct, I think. You know, Holloway was a guy that was respectable in the end. You know, he gave Poirier his moment. But yeah, I just don't want to see Holloway versus Topuria 2. As for Poirier, Holloway versus, Topuria. As for Poirier retiring, you know, for the division, I don't really know how much it's going to do. Maybe it just kind of lets the young guys rise to the top, because let's be honest, it has kind of been Poirier and Gaethje kind of running the show at the top, and then with Charles Oliveira, of course, And then for like small fractions of that period of time, you could maybe say guys like Gamrot and Dan Hooker have also been up there. But the lightweight division, it's been the old boys club for a long time at the top. You know, Islam Makhachev kind of built his resume beating the old boys. Ilia Poirier probably has the opportunity to do that as well by beating Holloway again, by probably demolishing Dan Hooker if that fight ever happens. So yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see how lightweight division moves forward now with the retirement of Poirier. But a good kind of ending for Poirier. A little bit sad that the final 10 seconds were spent with him just trying to avoid getting Justin Gaethje'd, but that is what it is. Costa beat Kopylov. Very good performance for Costa. I think what happened, honestly, was Costa landed early, and I think that Kopylov got nervous from there. You know, it kind of just looked like Kopylov didn't want to throw any more volume. And this is sad because I really believed in Kopylov in this fight, you know, because once again, Paulo Costa, you can kind of look at Dustin Poirier's career like this because I did pick Max Holloway for this reason. Poirier hasn't had a good performance in the UFC since 2021. All of these performances, they haven't been good. He hasn't looked good in any of them. Same thing for Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa has not looked good in a UFC fight since not even 2019. That wasn't even really that good of a fight, was it, against Romero? Like, it's been a long time. It's been 7 years, I think, since we've seen... No, this was Fight of the Night. I'm confused Romero versus Costa as Romero versus Adesanya. But yeah, we haven't seen Costa look good in a fight because he looked bad against Rockhold when he won that fight in a long, long time. So it kind of is good for Costa to get back into the division. You know, he brought up Chimaev, which is a fight that I think a lot of people have wanted to see for a long time. And, you know, of course, Costa, he's had a lot of cancelled fights as well, including the Chimaev fights. You know, Costa versus Dricus du Plessis is always kind of going to be a fun matchup. And as for Kopylov, he was kind of like the guy coming up. Now, he's not a young guy coming up, but he has always been the guy coming up. And I think now we've kind of learned maybe Kopylov just isn't the guy. Maybe he's just not the guy. I think Costa is the guy. I wouldn't mind Costa versus, like, Strickland again. I know that it happened recently, but that would be kind of cool. Or Costa versus Chimaev if he loses to DDP. I don't know. Costa's old, man. He's 34 years old. I think it's kind of time now for Costa to get a little bit more active. He has been relatively inactive recently. Daniel Rodriguez versus Kevin Holland. All right, I'm going to put the tinfoil hat on. And I know that with my hairline right now, I probably should be wearing a hat, but I swear, why was Kevin Holland so desperately trying to find a submission over Daniel Rodriguez instead of just finishing the fight with strikes? Did Kevin Holland have money on his own submission prop, or did he know someone that has money with his own submission prop? Because if this happened in the NBA, I guarantee you the NBA would investigate this. Now, this is tinfoil hat. This is conspiracy theory. Awesome here. But I swear, man, in that third round, why was Holland so desperate to get a submission? Whether it was a triangle, I think he even pulled guillotine at one point, the rear naked chokes opportunity he tried to get, instead of finishing the fight with strikes in round 3. Now, I do know that a lot of people will just put it down to bad fight IQ because Holland, just like Ryan Spann, are guys that are known to fumble the bag. Guys that are known you cannot trust these guys with your money. And that's why I kind of just strongly recommended not betting on Kevin Holland. Diehard MMA, I am looking at you. But the thing is about Kevin Holland, like, the fight IQ here was crazy. And I do genuinely think, like, it was so bad. There's bad fight IQ and then there's suspiciously bad fight IQ. And it is like that. So it's like, did Daniel Rodriguez win the first round? That's what it comes down to. Honestly, I was watching Manny Pacquiao fight to a draw at 46 years old at this time, so I was watching Pacquiao and the UFC on the same monitor. So I wasn't paying the fight super close attention, but I did think Daniel Rodriguez was up 2 rounds going into the third. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but it was a unanimous decision, so maybe all of the judges saw it. D-Rod even landed some good shots in the second round. Get some help, Kevin Holland. Get some help, man. Seriously. Patricio Pitbull turned back the clock a little bit, I guess you could say, against Dan Ige. Didn't expect this after the pathetic performance we saw from Pitbull against Yair Rodriguez. Now, I did say, though, in my breakdown that Pitbull was a much better matchup against Ige than it was against Yair, because I did say in my breakdown for that card that Yair Rodriguez is the worst stylistic matchup they could have ever given Patricio Pitbull, and I think that they did set up Yair to beat Pitbull in that fight. And then, of course, in this fight, I kind of did say it was a better fight for Pitbull, but, you know, Pitbull's a boxer, And I thought, you know, if he fought another boxer, and the thing about Dan Ige is, if he fights someone trying to box him, he typically wins because he is a very good boxer. Now, he's not really good at anything else, but he is good at boxing. And that is kind of how I saw the fight happening. And then Pitbull, kind of out of nowhere, something that we didn't really see kind of recently at all, was able to really utilize his grappling. He was doing some elite throws in that first round. You know, Dan Ige had a dominant position on him in the clinch, kind of in those like awkward clinch positions, which they're kind of wrestling, they're kind of not. And Pitbull threw him over. Very good performance from Pitbull, I would say. Now, it was boring, it did suck. Dan Ige did let us down a little bit, nearly knocked him out in the third round, though, to be fair. But yeah, as for Ige, decent enough performance. It just was boring, man. It just wasn't a good fight. And a little bit of copium there, because I did get that fight wrong. And another one I got wrong, too, was Daniel Zellhuber. Daniel Zellhuber, guys, there's a list. There's a list of guys you cannot trust with your money. Do not put your money on them. Kevin Holland, Ryan Spann, Daniel Zellhuber has been added to that list. And I know there's more that I'm just not thinking about on the top of my head. This guy has fumbled being a big favorite multiple times. He fumbled a minus 450 favorite. Anyway, against Trey Ogden. He fumbled. I believe he was a pretty big favorite against Ridovich. And he fumbled that too. This guy just fumbled being a minus 900 favorite against Michael Johnson. A fight which he was really wanting. A fight that he was calling for on social media. And he just showed up. He didn't show up. That's the thing. He kind of realized that I think he forgot how to throw punches. Michael Johnson, once again, kind of like maybe what happened in the Costa fight against Kopylov. He landed early. Zellhuber thought, I'm not built for this. I don't want to deal with this. And Johnson started to take over, man. And here's the thing about Johnson, dude. Is Michael Johnson going on a title run? I genuinely kind of am going to start like rooting for this, you know? Like, do we just give Michael Johnson like Mateus Gamrot and just see what happens? Do we seriously do that? Do we just do Michael Johnson versus Dan Hooker and just see what happens? Like, seriously? Is this kind of like the stage of Michael Johnson's career where we just kind of just give him guys that he, like, you know, would probably be less than a plus 600 underdog to beat, and then just see if he can do it, you know? Like, Rafael Fiziev versus Michael Johnson. Like, do we just do these things to see how it goes? Like, Johnson versus Tafik Musayev, maybe? Anyways, Vinicius Oliveira versus Kyle Phillips. This is probably one of the easiest reads of my career. However, there's a little problem, guys. Everyone had the same idea. Vinicius Oliveira lost the first round to Kyler Phillips, and he was a minus 250 favorite in between rounds 1 and 2. My plan, and like obviously I didn't place the bet, but my plan was, and I was telling people to do this, bet on Vinicius Oliveira in between rounds 1 and 2, because Kyler Phillips is going to win round 2, he's going to gas out doing it, win round 1, sorry, he's going to gas out doing it, and Oliveira is going to take over. And that's exactly what happened. But guess what? Even though Oliveira lost round 1, he was still a minus 250 favorite. The books were onto it. Maybe I need to stop publicly giving advice. Maybe the bookmakers saw this and were like, you know what? It's pretty good. It's pretty solid. In all seriousness, though, honestly, Kyler Phillips probably could have been a pegging of the week victim. Now, of course, I did pick Jackson McVeigh to be my pegging of the week. That is something that I'm going to be doing from the future now on every single week. And I will talk about that once we get there. But Oliveira lost the first round, in my opinion. Got hurt, got taken down. Round 2, Oliveira just starts to absolutely demolish him. And like, here comes a round 3 finish. And then Oliveira kind of gassed out himself. The thing about Oliveira, dude, his style is so awkward. So awkward. Like, I just don't know how he does against the top guys. The thing is, he can kind of just smoke probably everyone that's maybe just not in the top 12. But how does Oliveira do against someone like Piotr Jan? Because I just don't think that striking style would really work. Allen versus Vettori, this was a good fight. Allen, a little bit tasteless in the interview, saying that he was like thanking his brother when Vettori's brother died in a house fire like less than 3 months ago. I mean, Allen's not a thinking man. You know, Allen also said on Twitter publicly that he beats his children and he's got a 3-year-old daughter. Allen he's incapable of thinking. He's a little bit stupid. Also said he's the greatest middleweight in the world. To be fair, the middleweight division is so low level. He actually might be up there. The thing about this fight was, like, this is guys that were ranked 10 and 11, and the striking was so low level, you would be surprised that any of these guys had done any boxing in their entire life. That's how bad it was. Allen, to be fair, looked good. Like, Allen would throw a jab, like, genuinely good strikes, and Vittori would just go... It was kind of like when Carlos Ulberg fought against Alonzo Menafield, and Ulberg threw a jab, and then Menafield was like, oh my god, I have never seen a jab in my life, I'm gonna throw like an idiot, and then Ulberg slept him in like 18 seconds. That was kind of this fight, except for 15 minutes. So, kind of good for Allen, it was a good fight. Should have been on the main card, so we could have gotten the press conference out of the two. Veretennikov versus Prado, just full transparency. Didn't pay that much attention to this fight. Prado was really desperately trying to wrestle though, and Veretennikov death gassed as well. Like this wasn't a good fight, man. And you guys know I love Martin. Martin's my boy. Martin manages Prado, but Prado, dude, he's not a welterweight. The size, the strength difference between these guys was so apparent. Like I just don't really know what's up with Prado, but he needs to kind of probably, like, he's probably going to get cut from the promotion now, but he needs to kind of see a nutritionist or something and get back to 155. He is not a welterweight. He just isn't. That was proven when he fought Jake Matthews. That was proven especially in this fight. He didn't have the size. He didn't have the strength to deal with Veretennikov. Veretennikov stays in the UFC. He's fun, but he's not great, let's be honest. And then Teba Gautier versus Valentin probably could have been another victim of the pegging of the week, but I was confident in my pegging, and that's why I went with it. But Gautier smoked Valentin. Valentin must have had money on Gautier. Like, he didn't even try. That's the thing. Like, a lot of these guys, when they're big underdogs, they at least try. I don't think Valentin tried. Yeah, Valentin, he has got a lot of submission wins, but if you do watch his fights, he actually gets those fights to the ground by knocking his opponents down, so it's kind of unknown if he has any wrestling ability at all. But there were some people trying to pick Valentin in this matchup, and relatively understandably so, just given the unknowns about Gautier's wrestling and grappling game, aside from his one loss that he lost when he gassed out trying to defend takedowns. And Valentin didn't even try. So, good for Gautier. I think this guy is a genuine problem. I genuinely do believe that Gautier could go pretty far in this division, being only 23 years old. Like, if you give him Zach Reese, I think he knocks out Zach Reese. I think aside from that, though, like, there's pretty tough matchups coming up if they're going to give him wrestlers. But I kind of love Gautier as a prospect. He's a guy that I can definitely get behind, and I kind of am excited to see how his career does go forward at 185 pounds. Islam Dulatov pegged Adam Fugit. Once again, could have been a pegging of the week victim, but I decided not to go with it because Dulatov, he looked a little bit gassed out on his Contender Series fight after only about 3 minutes. Dulatov looked good here. He looked a lot more composed. I think he knew that his Dana White's Contender Series fight was a layup for him, which is why he probably fought that fight in the way that he did. Because he showed Fugit a lot more respect than he did Benito Antunes when he fought against him. So that makes sense. Like, Dulatov was a lot more reserved. He was a lot more controlled. He looked good. He fought from range better. He clinched well. He hit the knees. He looked good. And Fugit, he landed some good strikes, I will admit, but like he was always kind of given this as a layup. And then Dulatov actually got caught. No. Sorry, he got dropped, kind of. He slipped over with a... This is the thing about Dulatov, man. He got hit with a leg kick, and he still landed a 1-2 while he fell over from that leg kick. Like, kind of insane athleticism. I think Dulatov could go far in the division. Kroot beat Pragnell. It didn't look great for a bit, because Kroot doesn't know how to strike. I'm sorry, Jimmy Kroot. It's true, man. It's just true. Like, I just don't think... I think Kroot's like Paul Craig, where... he's just never gonna be good at striking. Like, he's not built for it, you know? Like, he just... I know he won in the first round, but Pragnell was still landing good shots on him. But good for Kroot. He got the win. I'm happy for Kroot. It's his first win since he was 25 years old. So, you know, that's pretty good. I would like to see Kroot return to Perth against someone. So, yeah, that would be pretty sick. Like, maybe... I don't know. Who do you do Kroot versus in Perth? Because you got to consider that they've got to be willing to travel to do the... Maybe Kroot versus Bukowskis, unless Bukowskis has a fight booked. Span beat Bursky. Once again, guys, I know that he beat Bursky easily. You can't trust Span with your money. You can't, because he fought a smart fight here. He took down Bursky. Bursky is a dangerous striker. I know he is a bit fat and pathetic at the moment, but at one point when he was on all of the juice, he was absolutely shredded, and he still is pretty good at striking. Span took him down, kind of tried to arm triangle him, and then he kind of got the guillotine from Mount. It was a pretty good performance from Span. First round sub. Gotta respect the fact that he actually showed some fight IQ here. And here it is, the pigging of the week. This was my first official pigging of the week. I picked Bruno Ferreira to pig Jackson McVeigh, and I think this was the best pigging of the week I could have chosen. Now, yes, he was a minus 500 favorite. However, he still won in the first round, didn't he? And he also dominated McVeigh. McVeigh looked... Dude, I was going to pick McVeigh as the underdog against the fat guy from Chile. What's his name? Against Christopher Hewitt. Hewitt would have smoked him. McVeigh looked absolutely terrible. McVeigh is a grappler. Once the fight got down to the ground, McVeigh didn't know what to do. I was shocked at this performance, genuinely. I think that Bruno Ferreira looked good. Bruno Ferreira also had a bad performance, I would argue, because on the feet, he just wouldn't throw anything, which was weird. But yeah, the pigging of the week happened. And here's the thing about the pigging of the week, guys. I'm going to make this a weekly thing, probably on this channel, because my main channel has 2 copyright strikes and a community guidelines violation. I'm walking on thin ice with what I say, what I post on that channel. Is the pegging of the week, someone said in the Discord, is it a bad thing? Is it a bad thing to get pegged? Like, should we be shaming people for getting pegged? Now, in my opinion, personally, I wouldn't do it, you know, but at the same time, like, am I discriminating against a certain amount of people here? You know, you never know. You never know what people are getting up to in their free time. Maybe McVeigh is getting pegged. You know, we don't know this, but he definitely got pegged by Ferreira in this fight. It's going to be a weekly thing. The pigging of the week, Bruno Ferreira won, and I do have a victim of next week, which I'll break down in my Art and MMA channel. Kelly Judas looked good. Now, here's the thing, right? I think like this is a really kind of odd situation that I'm in, and this is where the copium really starts to get huffed. Yes, Colliery looked bad. Yes, she got smoked start to finish. However, why would you shame me for picking a plus 300 underdog? I tried. I tried to take a swing. I took a swing and I missed. My bad, guys. My bad. But yeah, Judas is good. Underrated fighter. I have always kind of liked her. I just kind of thought that maybe, I don't know how good her takedown defense really is. And it turns out it's pretty good. She looked good in this fight. Have the performance bonuses been given? They have not. Not yet. Anyways, that was it for the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below.